Nope, it didn't like that, guys. Wayne. All right, Wayne. Have a good night, brother. Appreciate it. Patty, you know what I'm saying? What's up? I heard y'all doing good over there in the state that you're in. Tell my boy Miller I said what's up, and whenever he's ready, we go right on back to practicing some good old fashioned karate. Definitely one of my best students. That dude
Oh yeah.
picked it up immediately. I think I only had him a couple of weeks, man, and
Okay.
legitimately earned his yellow belt in 2 or 3 weeks. Very few students can do that. I was very impressed with him. This tonight's show. All right, Wayne. Ooh.
Okay. Right. Forgive us for that. We're up and running. And so tonight's topic, as my co-host just mentioned, is depression. We're going to talk about depression. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this subject and bring up this topic tonight is because, the holiday seasons are rolling around. Thanksgiving is about 3 weeks out.
Mm-hmm.
And depression is a real serious thing for people during the holiday season, going into the new year, and also around birthday time for people as well. Um, I, you know, it's been a topic that I'm pretty sure has resonated in regards to the other topics that we've talked about.
Everything does kind of come full circle for us.
It does. It does. This is Change Your Mind, Change Your Thinking is a show of importance in regards to giving different perspective about topics that many people either don't want to talk about, won't talk about, and or won't give great viewpoints about.
True.
Our objective is to help in regards to having a forum where people can speak their mind and say things that on other shows they may not be able to say, but here we don't get offended like that. So tonight we really want you guys to be a part of this. If you can be interactive by giving your opinion, you can type in the messages your thoughts, your information in regards to what you know about the topic, subject matter that we're talking about tonight, and whether you agree, whether you disagree, whether you have something to add in regards to what we're talking about. But yeah, we're talking about depression. And I know that everyone watching this, everyone listening to this, everyone who has any regards to emotions in regards to themselves as human beings has experienced this in one way or another. So, you want to read off all of our info?
Oh, sure.
Want me to do that tonight?
Where I shine, one of many places. Well, everyone, before we get into dissecting depression, I want to get personal. Very personal.
Okay.
Extremely personal.
Oh.
Because I know that so badly on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, all of our friends here who are great viewers, they're consistent, great personalities, they want to reach out to us. They want to be able to contact us. And I can't let the show go on without telling them how they can do it.
All right.
So, if for some reason you wanted to reach us on every day that's not Tuesday and Thursday, we can be found on Instagram at CMCT_show. You can also find us on Facebook at CMCT Show. We can also be found on YouTube, where we are currently live. If you wanted to switch over there and help with the viewership, at CMCT_show. We also have a Twitter at CMCT_show. Even more personally, you think they want to send us some pictures? And not just any pictures, real personal pictures. You know what I'm saying? If that's what you wanted to do, you can email us at cmctshow@gmail.com. We also have a TikTok. It's under construction, but it's there and it's at CMCT underscore show. Lastly, if you wanted to help us, be cool while we're wearing these hoodies up in here because it's very hot up under all these lights. But I do it for you. He does it for you. We do it for you. Thanks for viewing. You can find us on Linktree. The Linktree website, up in the upper right-hand corner, there is a search box. If you type into the search box, CMCT underscore show, you can donate to the cause of keeping us cool up under these hot-ass lights. And lastly, my brother's Instagram, DARKAN 2000, that is Darkon 2000, on Instagram. He also has a Twitter at DARKANENT, Darkon ENT. My Instagram is _dosage, DOSAGE. I can also be found on my second Instagram at _MA.
Thank you, brother.
Yes,
so,
sir.
Yes, we know that that's something that definitely has to happen, so that way you can be able to get in touch with us when we are not here on Thursdays and Tuesdays. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern Time and 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So tonight's topic, again, is about depression. And, I was really at odds in regards to how we were going to start the show off because we normally do what's called our definition. We want to make sure that, everyone has an understanding of what we're talking about in regards to the topic. So we start out with giving a definition first. Yes, and, it was really rough for me because it was just like when I went to set up for our show, and I saw that the definition of depression has been adjusted somewhat. I don't know. Maybe we need to go to a different space for the definition of it. But depression has now become a disorder. And I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, this is as late as 2022.
I wouldn't be surprised
October.
at that.
And so I was like, okay, how is something like depression being redefined as a disorder? Something that my Sifu call, he used to say, depression is part of who we are as human beings. We get depressed because we have emotions, and
there's 3 different Wikipedias on depression. Go ahead.
Wow. Well, let me just turn it over to you so that way we can get to the root of this because, I mean, I think we have to start on being able to
understand the term
and
definitively.
Yeah, definitively, yeah.
Well, let's see. What website is this? The Mayo Clinic? We can start with that. The overview, what is depression? A Mayo Clinic expert explains, depression is a mood disorder that causes a persistent feeling of sadness and loss of interest. Also called major depressive disorder or clinical depression. It affects how you feel, think, and behave and can lead to a variety of emotional and physical problems. You may have trouble doing normal day-to-day activities, and sometimes you may feel as if life isn't worth living. More than just a bout of the blues, depression isn't a weakness, and you can't simply snap out of it. Depression may require long-term treatment, but don't get discouraged. Most people with depression feel better with medication, psychotherapy, or both.
Wow.
Thanks on that.
Wow.
That's Mayo Clinic's. So I'm going to start with depression, then we'll read major depressive disorder, and then depression, the mood. There are 3 different Wikipedias on that. So let's start there. Oh, calm down, Eric. Depression may refer to mental health, economics, biology, and even earth science, apparently. So let's see. Mood disorders characterized by depression are commonly referred to, excuse me, as simply depression, including dysthymia,
yeah.
also known as persistent depressive disorder, which they really just give links to all of these different things. So maybe there's not three Wikipedias. Let's just start with major depressive disorder. Also known as clinical depression, is a mental disorder characterized by at least 2 weeks of pervasive low mood, low self esteem, and loss of interest or pleasure in normally enjoyable activities. Introduced by a group of U.S. clinicians in the mid 1970s, the term was adopted by the American Psychiatric Association for this symptom cluster under mood disorders in the 1980 version of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, and has become widely used since. The diagnosis of major depressive disorder is based on the person's reported experiences, behavior reported by relatives or friends, and a mental status examination. There is no laboratory test for the disorder, but testing may be done to rule out physical conditions that can cause similar symptoms. The most common time of onset is in a person's 20s, with females affected about twice as often as males. The course of the disorder varies widely, from one episode lasting months to a lifelong disorder with recurrent major depressive episodes.
Okay, listen. All right, people have listen. This is the age of a strong necessity to be logical in things. You're going to have to do your own research. You're going to have to make sure you're informed about stuff, because they're changing the thought process on how people deal with certain things. Okay, because we're gonna go back to that in a second, but let my partner go ahead and read on.
So, the next Wikipedia, I don't know why they chose the pictures they chose. It's hilarious. Depression, the mood. Not to be confused with major depressive disorder. Hopelessness, despair. Depression is a mental state of low mood and aversion to activity, which affects more than 280 million people of all ages. Classified medically as a mental and behavioral disorder. The experience of depression affects a person's thoughts, behavior, motivation, feelings, and sense of well-being. The core system of depression is said to be anhedonia. I won't pretend like I know that word.
Yeah, anhedonia.
Anhedonia, which refers to loss of interest or loss of feeling of pleasure in certain activities that usually bring joy to people. Depressed mood is a symptom of some mood disorders, such as major depressive disorder or dysthymia. It is a normal temporary reaction to life events such as the loss of a loved one, and it is also a symptom of some physical diseases and a side effect of some drugs and medical treatments. It may feature sadness, difficulty in thinking and concentration, and a significant increase or decrease in appetite and time spent sleeping. People experiencing depression may have feelings of dejection, hopelessness, and suicidal thoughts. It can either be short-term or long-term.
Okay. See, we're starting out to get some clarity, and we're already confused.
Just about.
Starting out to give some clarity to get some clarity, and we're already confused. Depression, the mood compared to depression, the disorder. What in the hell is going on?
Well, God damn it. Looks like we have a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
So, where do we begin? Because that was a lot.
It is a lot. It's a tremendous amount.
Let's see if there's a Webster's
definition
other than the technical terms. Depressed, low in spirits. Yeah, that's about where it stops, because there's a million other definitions. So I guess that's a good place to start, is low in spirits, especially affected by psychological
depression.
Okay.
Unmet expectations breeds BREEDS, depression.
Okay.
We've got to learn, like I said, to be informed. We have to learn to be informed. There's a lot of people out there medicated, and they shouldn't be, because that's what I'm getting from this.
Yeah. They want to, we can get into the difference between Eastern medicine and Western medicine. I would love to know how they handle depression in places like Japan and China and
Hmm.
different places.
If
in
anybody
China.
out there knows, please hit us up.
We could Google it, but we don't want to spend too much time on Google.
Right, and we want to incorporate you guys into the conversation. So,
Correct.
Listen, when you simplify things, it's easier for you to figure out the answer to something. It's kind of like algebra, right? You got to simplify it in order to understand it. You can't take it within its text because it'll confuse you. You have to simplify something to understand it. I like Webster's definition better because it simplifies it. All right. Even if we say that depression is a mood, to go to the extent of saying depression is a mood disorder, now that's a problem because now you're saying what would normally be a natural effect, and even the definition of Wikipedia said how many millions?
380. It was 380.
We all get depressed. Everybody gets depressed. You wouldn't be a human being if you didn't get depressed. That's part of being a human being.
I want to look at, since we're talking about the difference between a mood and why a disorder would make it an issue. Let's get the definition of disorder so that we can be accurate about that. So, a disorder, a state of confusion, disrupt the systematic functioning or neat arrangement of, right? A disease. Oh wait, no, that's talking about disease. My bad. But yeah, no, a state of confusion, right? Disorder. Maybe we should look up the medical definition. Yeah, wow. Google's like reading my mind right now.
Pretty much.
Hilarious. In medicine, a disturbance of normal functioning of the mind or body. Disorders may be caused by genetic factors, disease, or trauma.
See, and that's a problem.
Well,
that's a problem.
Trauma is natural.
No.
It is normal.
Traumas
are natural.
Trauma
is normal.
Trauma is a natural response to something that caused the trauma.
Correct.
Right. So that's where we're right at.
There is no existence without trauma.
That's fair.
In anything in the animal kingdom,
in life in
anything
general,
in nature.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's
right?
fair. That's fair.
So it's pretty natural.
It's
fair to say that.
Something, yeah.
A disorder, again, in medicine, a disturbance of normal functioning of the mind or body. Disorders may be caused by genetic factors, disease, or trauma.
That's where I have an issue. When you say genetic factors, disease, or, a trauma that, traumatic experience.
Right.
Someone dies. Okay, you go into a bout of depression. You lose your job. That's traumatic. Those are traumatic experiences. The problem becomes when you say something is genetic or is a disease. What is a disease? A disease is usually a physical thing. A disease of the mind usually is a physical thing. A genetic disorder is something that's part of the mind as well. To say that I'm depressed, so the answer is I got a genetic disorder. I don't know. This is making me sit
because we know about the generational effects. Mentally of slavery, although I believe that those are passed on based on our behaviors.
Yeah, at this point, absolutely, yeah.
Rather than mentally and spiritually, I think it's just habits that we've carried on is why it's been so long.
Brandon Heitkamp, you said the two different versions: mood versus chronic condition.
Correct.
Clinically prone to, genetically prone to. Yes. Now that's where someone may need medication. The problem that I'm seeing just from this little bit of research we've been doing with you guys while we've been online is that it all leads to needing medication. It all leads to
that is an issue.
That's a huge issue. Just like I'm genetically prone to heart issues. Well, not disagreeing with that at all. The problem becomes when we look at redefining what depression is and confusing people to where they feel like, oh, I need Zoloft or I need Xanax in order to feel better, but
because it stops them from dealing with what they're having their bout with.
Absolutely.
That's all that is.
Yeah.
It's what we call it a form of lidocaine.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah. This is very problematic. Therapy is something that's needed consistently, Brandon. Some people are overcoming things.
Yeah.
So therapy to me is a highly it's a high level functioning aspect of being able to have someone to count on to talk to, because talking is very important for some of us, right?
Right.
And so no one's going to sit there for 2 hours straight and just listen to you talk or ask you questions. Unless that's the
That's
relationship you
something
have.
someone that actually cares about you. So
Mm-hmm.
let's start with some of these
Wow.
spots. Unfortunately, it's way over there because
Yeah.
I kept pulling out over here.
Uh,
But postpartum depression, you got to excuse me, the letters is white, so I got to kind of, there we go. Postpartum depression hit me hard and gave me mad respect for anyone going through any type of depression. As far as regular depression, I'm definitely open to hearing more insight about it. Um, I battle it every day, but I use my wife and children to help cope with it. They make me want to keep going. Doctors treat it more like a chemical imbalance.
mm,
Trauma lives in the body. Genetics and trauma definitely played a part of my postpartum depression. Black people do not believe in mental health enough or keep up proper medical records, so we are doomed from the start.
mm,
Prayer circles for everyone.
mm.
Was that the end of it? Oh, that was the end. All right. And lastly, this is deep. I always felt it depends on the person's mental state on how they handle it.
Postpartum depression was a very popular thing in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Going through the 60s and the 70s, I know there was a huge movement for housewives to be prescribed certain medications because,
Zoloft.
yeah,
What do they call them? They call them barbiturates.
barbiturates, all of
Yeah.
those different drugs to keep people happy, and that's where movies like the Valley of the Dolls and the Stepford Wives came from,
Mm-hmm.
those types of things, because it doctors started doing it with the housewives because they were telling them that you're not happy with your life. It was the movement of the feminist movement, you see, and so that's what kick-started that, because it's like telling a housewife, who's raising children and taking care of the home, you're not happy with your life, you're depressed, something wrong with you. you know.
Something's wrong with someone who may need a break, or maybe they need an additional outlet or just someone to talk to, rather than digging into what the actual issues were. And of course, there are extenuating circumstances, but the world and life altogether is not like the fucking color purple.
Not at all.
Okay,
Not at all.
most of these households were of people who were just figuring out how to get through and raise these children,
Mm-hmm.
men and women.
Mm-hmm.
So um, the reason why I said that is because we're not gonna deal with extreme examples unless that is something that is absolutely personal to you.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not going to accept the the minority generalization of men and women are being battered and beaten and drugged through the mud in these relationships with these families. It's just people are figuring out how to be people,
Mm-hmm.
is what that is.
Mm-hmm.
None of us are innocent.
Mm-hmm.
You find me somebody that's innocent, and we'll sit down and have that conversation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Everyone has got some stain on them. What? Okay, so let's start to get down to the dance of this.
Okay.
What do you think causes? Because see, there's so many different terms, and we're not talking about clinical diagnosis, because we're not doctors, so we can't clinically diagnose somebody if they're depressed or not.
Right.
I've been told many times by people, "Oh, you're depressed. You're depressed." I think there has to be enough insight in regards to self-analyzation to learn when you are depressed. What like I said, what simplifies it for me is unmet expectation causes depression. One of the things that I've learned is that for the different times that I've been there for my friends and stuff, a lot of my male friends in particular, birthday times would bring on depression. We deal with it different, because you get to a certain point in your life and you go, I'm not where I want to be. I'm not where I should be. And usually birthdays are a real slap in the face reminder of that. Okay, when you get older, you're like, man. That's why a lot of us stop celebrating them, because it's just like, what's the point? It's another day. Sometimes you can get to a point where you're depressed and you really don't realize you're depressed. Some
Because
of us,
it becomes normal.
because it it becomes normal, or you're so used to working through it the way you were raised, right? Because that's what he was saying. Basically, people are they're finding their way through it. They're working through it. Depression is a motherfucker. It's a very serious thing. It's something where And we're not talking about, like I said, clinical diagnosis of, okay, you have a mental imbalance. That's the, to me, that's the extreme. I think, if, like for me, sometimes when I have depression, it's a couple of days, and I always look at it as I go into a cave and I just keep to myself, and I'm good.
You deal with introspection.
Yeah, I look at it. Okay, well, what do I need to make happen, and why do I feel this way? And a lot of times, for some of us, it's multiple things,
Well,
right?
you got to know too that being able to sit and deal in introspection, that's an extreme version or an extreme case for most humans. A lot of us do not. I believe a majority of us do not deal with introspection.
Mm-hmm.
Don't even know what introspection is.
Mm-hmm.
To sit and really look with and work on self, because that's not something that's ever really been a part of their realities. That's
Yeah,
also not something that's pushed,
yeah.
right?
Okay, so then I think tonight what we will
So that would
just,
make us the. I'm just. The reason why I'm saying that would kind of make us the minority, because we know how to go and dig down and pull ourselves out of the depressive state, or even away from the depressive state momentarily.
yeah,
That's not something that that a majority of people operate within.
right, and that's kind of who we want to speak to, the people who
Yeah.
can understand that. So I think we need to just knuckle down and say that tonight we're talking about mood not disorder,
The
mood
mood.
depression,
Yeah.
mood depression. So any other things that you guys want to talk about, you're definitely welcome to talk about. But I think Antonio and I are going to focus on just the mood depression because it's the easiest way for us to help in
Yeah.
regards to our
And
conversation.
feel free to chime in at the hour mark, which is damn already in 30 minutes. We're
Man,
definitely gonna take people in and let you speak to it. Depending on how many people are coming in, we're gonna have to keep
yeah,
you to
yeah,
like
minute, 2 minute,
one
yeah,
or 2 minutes or
yeah,
so. But
yeah.
we'll do that. Not as usual, and I hate to do this during the show, but damn it,
He's
I've been
gotta go.
drinking water all day.
He's gotta go.
Brother got to go, so I'll be back, everybody.
Yeah. All right. So while he's away, I just basically want to talk about the different things that can cause depression, mood depression, because mood is just basically dealing with your emotions of how you respond to different things, whether they're traumas and or experiences. Okay. Um, you, despair and loss and remorse, right? You can be in despair about life or about different circumstances that you're involved in. You despair, what's going on, loss, the death of a loved one. Um, that's always tough. Or even an animal, because a lot of us have pets, and those pets bring tremendous joy in our lives, and to lose a pet can send you into a depressive state. Remorse. Okay. Remorse is a powerful thing, because sometimes you can be remorseful about things once you look at your decisions and you go, man, I should have went left instead of going right, or I should have went right instead of left, and that remorse can cause a state of depression. Um, Discouragement. Okay, you could be discouraged about your current circumstance or your situation or your opportunity, and it just doesn't seem like it's working out. Fear. Fear can cause depression. Uh, Not knowing what the future is going to hold. When COVID happened, a lot of people, the number one thing was depression. There were suicides. The suicide rate exploded because people didn't, not so much not have the opportunity to go out as much as it was a, like, when was it going to end, and when was it going to be a point where they could go out, and you're sitting with your thoughts. You're sitting with your thoughts. Hello, Chin Claudia. You're sitting with your thoughts, so that can cause depression. Anger. Anger can cause depression. Anger as to what needs to be done or what wasn't done. Um, uh, Grieving over your relationships with people. You have people in your life who aren't taking sound advice, and or are not there for you the way you would think that they need to be there, that could cause depression. Loneliness. Loneliness and loneliness, it's like talking about COVID, the time of the lockdowns, people were alone. And like I said, a lot of people really don't like being alone with their thoughts because basically, again, going back to what I said about unmet expectation, you start to think about the things you weren't able to accomplish or didn't do. And when you are not sure of if those things are ever going to be possible, that can cause a level of depression. Defeat. Um, if you have a defeatist mindset, or if you're in a situation where you felt like you've been defeated, that's another way of being dealt with a bout of depression. Insecurity. And when you're insecure, you could be insecure about yourself and insecure about different things. Those are another. That's another thing that could cause a bout of depression. So when I say a bout of depression, I'm talking about a period of time. Okay, and I guess that's how psychiatrists got into a point where, um, you know, just recently somebody had showed me a bottle of Zoloft, I think it was,
Hmm.
and I was reading the I was
Side
reading the
effects.
side effects, and I'm just like, I feel like the side effects are worse. The side effects are worse than the depression itself, or the feeling of the depression that you go through. So we have to be very careful that the everything's all about a pill.
Well, it's the difference between cures and treatments.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Typically, especially in Western medicine, they treat diseases, they treat disorders, they treat ailments and illnesses rather than actually going to cure them because treatments are over a period of time. It's money from the for the pharmaceutical industry, right? Big pharma or whatever the
The
fuck they
longer
call
you're
it.
sick, the more money they make off of you.
Correct.
And if you say that something that is a natural thing, depression, mood, depression is something that we all are going to experience.
Correct.
Hell, some people, even their cats and their dogs, they get
Yeah.
depressed. And
They
you
need
know,
they need a change of scenery. Or
yeah,
they don't like dealing with the whatever the energy is that's local to them, and animals. Which I say this all the time. We are also animals. We are a part of the animal kingdom, but humans are so smart that we think that we're above nature, and really we're not. We're all dealing with the exact same shit.
adversity in my mind, and that's what makes you stand out when you're able to
Mm-hmm.
handle that adversity. So, how do we help that? How do we help? And I read off a list of things that cause depression for certain people,
Yeah.
and that you could have one of those things, or you could have a multitude of those things. Like I said, for some of us, it's many things. I know for me personally, it's more than two or three things. Like usually, I can handle one thing, two things. It's like an onslaught. It's a shotgun blast of like, oh man, are you serious? It's like one thing after another. It's very much like how Job in the Bible, who he did no wrong in God's eyes, but man, he lost his family, he lost his riches, he lost his land, he lost his servants, and then eventually he lost his health, and he made it through all of that. Even his own wife told him, "Why don't you just curse God and die?"
Hmm.
So in essence, he didn't even have the support of his wife. You know what I mean? His friends was just like, "Man, what did you do that made God mad at you that this would happen?" So he had it the worst, in my opinion. It was the worst case scenario. This is a man that did no wrong in God's eyes, and Satan and him had this thing back and forth. He was like, "Well, he told God. He was like, God told Satan. He's like, "Have you considered my servant?" He was like, "Well, him?" He's like, "Yeah, yeah." So he tested him in that regards. And so when you go through these bouts of depression, we're not clinical psychologists, and we're not clinical sociologists. We can't tell you what a normal bout of depression should be. Everyone deals with it differently. I've known people who they lost a family member and went in a 4 or 5 year depression. Long time.
I'll tell you what I think depression is in its simplest stages, right? Something as small as this. Because depression, like trauma and happiness and perfection and so forth, is very relative, right? So I believe that it's as simple as I get on the freeway during rush hour traffic. Man, I'm having a bad time. I wish I was anywhere else. This is affecting my mood. or I'm allowing it to affect my mood, whatever it is, I don't have much of a choice but to sit here in this traffic, right? And then we go to, oh shit, I know it's rush hour. I got to be somewhere. I'm either going to leave early or I'm going to take the back streets, right? That's being able to take control over something that's not bringing you happiness or allowing you to stay balanced. So I think depression is when we experience things that we're not much in favor of, and there's not much that we can do about it in the moment.
It's very similar to
We
what I
have no
believe,
power
man.
over it.
Unmet expectation. It breeds depression. And that simplification. See, listen, you can't do anything about something unless you understand why something is the way it is.
Correct.
Now, like I said, we're not going to talk about clinical depression in regards to psychological depression, where people have mental disorders and there's a chemical
I was gonna say that's a
imbalance.
chemical imbalance.
Yeah,
That
now
has a lot to
that's
do with hormones.
right. And listen, and you cannot listen. You cannot tell me there's like that many people walking around. You know what I mean? Like, okay, so now it becomes, oh, it's bipolar, and now it's this, and now it's that, and now it's this. No. A lot of times people doing drugs and stuff that they shouldn't be doing, and it shows up a certain way as well. Like,
Correct.
you can't just say it's all depression and it's just all this and
So we're talking about laying blanket terms over it, because over the past four, I don't know why I chose a number, the past few years, really the last decade, there's been an increase in, I don't know if it's the world uncovering and accepting the understanding of mental disorders, or if it's a part of the culture where everyone wants to be a victim,
mm,
because it is
mm,
severely overused
mm-hmm,
to the point of you don't know when someone wants you to take it serious and when they don't.
mm-hmm,
That's a problem.
mm-hmm.
I'm assuming that is kind of where you were going,
Yeah,
right?
man. Yeah. I mean, we're dealing with a lot now that people, well, he's got to understand he's got a mental disorder. Well, what does that mean? Why is this person acting this way? What do we overlook the fact that some people are just narcissists, or some people are just they were raised to be selfish
And they lack understanding
yeah,
of social maturity.
yeah, and it's like do we not hold them accountable for the fact that even a child knows the basics?
Right.
Depression is a thing that is caused by a lot of times where we are not in life or what we are not getting, just kind of like what you were saying.
Mm-hmm. And it's momentary.
It is a momentary thing. It's considered a season. Listen, even in the Bible, Elijah, the prophet, he was dealing with being pursued, and he went into the forest. And went almost like the forest in the desert, and he just told God, he's like, yo, just kill me, bro. He said, just kill me, and and God sent angels to minister to him.
Hmm.
And by that, what I'm saying is that there was a period he had to go through. He had to go through that period, and then the angels. Then he got rest, and then the angels gave him food to eat, and he got more rest. And he said, "All right, I'm gearing you up for something bigger. So just go ahead and get this rest. Go ahead and you're going to eat. You're going to rest and everything. And now, boom. But he got to the point where he was at the lows of the low. He was like, God, just kill me. And I know that we've all been in some state
to that place where we don't we may
live.
not believe that we have the strength to carry on.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I mean, whether someone believes in this book or not,
I believe that's getting into the clinical level.
well, because if you're clinically diagnosed, the first thing they're going to do is give you medication.
Well, I'm saying that's the level, like, or that's how effective that state of mind or that mood, that state of your emotions is on you. It's been that long. All of these things are happening.
Mm-hmm.
What do they call it? Just everything is falling for you right now. Everything is failing.
Well, I
And
can
how
say,
long is that? How long is that going on? How much of an effect does that have on someone?
well, I can say, I mean, I know in high school, I went through a long period of depression because, dealing with the abuse that I had suffered as a child, it started, the images and the mental stuff started happening. And so, I wore black, you see.
Your mind couldn't keep those things away from the forefront for you.
Mm-mm. No, it comes out. It comes out very forceful.
So then you're over encumbered, right?
Yeah, and so
And even though you don't go to the doctor,
right. Well, and
now at this point we start contemplating life.
right.
I would say that that's pretty fair to say that that's
Well,
either clinical or nearly clinical.
well, at that time there wasn't.
Yeah, there wasn't a thing.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
No, it was just like you're going through a phase. That's what they used to say.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nowadays, if a child is going through a phase, they're altering their body.
Which is
You
a
understand?
lot.
So
I mean, that used to be just tattoos and
yeah, you were acting,
piercings and shit.
and then they would say
Yeah.
you were acting out. You see what I'm saying? So you're going through a phase, you act out. Oh, and it wasn't even a word that depression back in the 80s wasn't even a word that we used. There was psychiatrists. You gotta okay. I was from an era where you had Donahue, you had Oprah Winfrey, you had Montel, you had Ricky Lake, you had Jesus.
It was the talk show era.
It was the talk show era, and before and listen, it wasn't that the talk shows didn't help. They helped tremendously because they informed people before they became trashy. But they informed people of things that they didn't know prior.
It was a different form of current news.
Yeah,
It was
absolutely.
current news as it actually applied to the typical human.
Yeah. Yeah, which was important because the 80s was the me generation. That's what they call the Ronald Reagan time,
Yeah.
the me generation. It was discovering self because the 70s was all about um, revolution and the 60s was revolution and the love, the love movement, the us movement. And so with the 80s, depression was a thing back then where you barely even heard someone say, hey, I'm depressed. You barely heard that. Now, like I said, if you saw a young person act out, that's what we say. Oh, they're just acting out. They're going through something. They're going through something. So for me at 16 or 17 around that time, yeah, I was especially dealing with the abuse. There was a point maybe 3-4 months, and then I had other things going on. I found out that I had severe back issues, and so there was probably a good year, 2 years that I went through depression. I was a functioning person, but I was depressed. I would say considerably most of the time.
Did you understand what it was that you were going through?
Not at all.
So is it fair to say that that's a disorder? It's confusion.
No, it is confusion. And so that's the word we would use more than anything. We wouldn't use depression. We would use confusion. That was a different word. Like you were confused about the world. I mean, man, I would look. Listen, the 80s was as there's great things about the 80s. And then people don't know what it's like to have nuclear war movies on television at the age of 16, 17. And so if you're a person who's going through your own personal confusion, and then you got the world's confusion, and then you have ticking time bomb of Russia versus America with nuclear arms facing each other. Man, you talk. I don't even know. Now that I'm thinking back, how did I make it out of that time? How did some of us make it out of that time? And I can say that about any era, but man, when I look at it, maybe that's what made me so goddamn strong.
Well, because even the chaos of the news is also just momentary.
Yeah, and the news is.
Look how fast monkeypox disappeared. Just saying, you know.
Yeah.
People were ready and up in arms to go and let me stock up and buy Costco out and all of this shit.
Mm-hmm.
That was just a moment, man.
And those things cause depression, definitely.
Yeah, of course they do.
Definitely.
It's because it's something traumatic that you're being fed.
Yeah, yeah. Brandon said science evolves as we do. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can agree on that for sure. But science can also be very what's the word I'm looking for?
Detrimental,
Irresponsible.
irresponsible. Yeah. Well, in the science world, they call that unethical.
But you'll
And
never
I,
hear them
I
say
think
that.
I think that we're talking more so about the media, the way that it exposes these scientific feats and milestones is unethical.
Yeah.
We should not have found out about uh, nuclear weapons and all of this kind of shit
Mm-hmm.
through the Cold War,
Mm-hmm.
and however it was that they televised that. I mean, I've seen a bunch of the propaganda from that era, but
Mm-hmm.
um, it's made to be depressing and
Mm-hmm.
keep you in a certain state, keep you in a certain place. We've talked about this a few times, but you know, the things that we're consuming are not helping us maintain balance and be well rounded in our day to day lives. And when I say we, I'm just talking about the general public.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some people can't go about their day without catching the news just to make sure that they're not missing out on. I don't know what it is that they're missing out on, but you know, they feel more informed and feel like they're more a part of the world and looking to understand the problems.
Do you think that's taught? I think that's taught. I think that's something that as
It's a basic
yeah,
human behavior.
yeah,
They just want to be informed.
yeah, and I think there's a point at our in our lives, especially as children, that we grow up around our parents watching that black box and
Hmm.
making sure and
And before that, it was the newspaper,
right, or the radio,
radio.
and
Correct.
I think what happens is we don't want to be perceived as being dumb or stupid or ill informed
Well,
or
for some people, it's the fear of missing out.
right.
I don't want to not know what's
Going
going
on?
on. They're afraid of what it's like to be, and I love this talk. We may have to do a show on this, but they're afraid of what it's like to actually be independent.
Mm-hmm. Of everything and everyone.
I think that true independence is one of the biggest responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
And subconsciously, deep down, we all know what it actually takes to be independent.
Mm-hmm.
And for that reason, a majority of us go ahead and run from it because I'm okay right here where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
I can deal with getting up and going to work at 5 o'clock in the morning, getting off, or whatever it is, paying for babysitters, and I'm doing all of this in my life not to take the responsibility of being truly independent, which is, what if I just don't pay attention to the news?
Mm-hmm.
What if I just don't read these newspapers and stay off of social media, and I go and live my life the way that I want it to be? Would people be less depressed? Would people be less unhappy?
Now we're getting to the root of things because if we say, like how I was saying, that unmet expectation breeds depression,
Right.
if you have an expectation to be like the next person,
Where do expectations come from?
absolutely, the desire of what the other person wants,
The desire
and
to be
has,
included.
which is a way of being included. Because
Yeah.
if listen, the highest level of propaganda is through commercials, me telling you this is what you need to be happy.
Oh shit. Well, let me go get the Swiffer. You know what I'm saying? Let me get the Swiffer jet.
I always talk about. To me, jingles being in music,
Yeah.
jingles. I can do it probably.
That's one of the
all day.
highest forms of vibration.
Yeah,
man.
yeah, absolutely. And the people who've done it throughout the years allows people retired very rich. They're very rich. To me, one of the ones one of the ones that stick with me the most is there was a car commercial. I can't remember the name of the car, but it was always this chick saying, "Freedom is calling you," and I said, "Man, they got people believing that if they buy this car, they'll be free." They did a great job in that
That's
jingle because it's
hysterical.
like people believe if they have a car that they'll be free. That I can go anywhere, I can do anything that I want with this car. Not taking into effect, okay, well, first off, you go to the dealership, and more than likely you're not going to be able to buy it straight out. So now you're in debt. You're not free. You got to put gas in that bad boy. So
Yep. You gotta work. You gotta work for something to sustain that.
You got to be able to go somewhere. Where you going to go?
Well, I mean, but that's the point of the propaganda, right? A lack of information.
It's horrible. Eric said depression, beings with denial of loved ones, circumstance, aka living a false reality, denial of one's circumstances, then proceeds to a victimization mindset because acceptance of one's reality is not as easy as living in the false reality. Depression could be put to a halt if the individuality accepted power of choice.
He might have had a bunch of autocorrect there.
Yeah,
Is what it
but
seems like. So, but what I'm hearing is the effect of keeping up with the Joneses.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
He and I kind of spoke on this a while ago too, but keeping up with the Joneses, man, and competing with your family, because those are the people closest to you. They got a new couch,
yeah.
a new dining room
Oh yeah,
set.
yeah.
Why I got to go get a dining room
Right.
set?
Not taking into account how they made that happen, which was also, like I said, in the '70s when you saw women burning bras,
Mm-hmm.
and here's these women that had full families and they were great matriarchs, and they stayed home and took care of their kids and cooked and could do a 5 course meal and everything was good at the home. And they saw these women on television burning their bra and an exclamation as that's freedom.
And then they get
That's
out in the
freedom.
actual world.
Right.
It's everything comes with a price.
And so instead of these women understanding that, you know what, that, and that, listen, that goes into midlife crisis. I already been through my midlife crisis, whatever that means. These terminologies, you have to be very careful with terminologies.
We'll have to talk about that one day.
Yeah,
but I want to bring clarity to what you were just talking about, because I don't want anyone to be confused here.
Yeah.
Why that example was important is because they say be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Right? Now we have women in the workplace depressed, women in the world trying to figure out how come they are not able to compete professionally and still do it the way that they want to do it. Because this shit is hard the way that it is, and it always has been. And that's not a comeuppance or a see, told you, you got, but not understanding that is what puts people into these precarious positions, right? Trying to figure out how is it now that I'm supposed to survive this rather than what I was already doing. That was just fine. But that gets into that talk or that thing that I said about independence. It's a huge responsibility to go and be a part of certain things, and you don't always have the option to change that shit.
Yeah.
Once you're there, you're met with what you're met with. So now what do you do, right? That is what brings about the depression, because there's not always something that you can do once you've assumed the position, so to speak, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what people are dealing with.
Yeah, and we see it more now than ever that people drown themselves with recreational things in order to overcome the depression, rather than kind of like what Eric was saying. The strength is in self. They go outside of themselves, and this is something that we're talking about a lot of show topics that we're going to be talking about. But I don't believe in like sexual addiction. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in stuff like that, because I just know that people, going back to, like I said, we used to say acting out. That person just acting out. There's a point of time and a period that people go through things. So that's why you see like recreational drugs on the rise. People, they smoke weed. There's people, who will tell you, man, I go and I got to pull these hours. I come home every night and I just smoke.
Well, for some people, that's the happiest thing that they have in their life at that moment.
Right.
I think that's where a majority of habits are built.
Now that's something that I'll agree upon. See, habits are things that we use as coping mechanisms, or I call them crutches, because a crutch is a way to help yourself emotionally.
It helps you get through whatever else it is that you're dealing with.
Right, but it does not. It doesn't
fix the problem.
It doesn't heal. It doesn't fix the problem. Man, listen. Okay, all right. So we're coming up on the end of the first hour.
Damn, that was fast.
Yeah, that's why I had to say it that
way.
We're
just barely knocking on the door here.
Yeah, there's a lot more to talk about, and the thing is just like how we do here, change your mind, change your thinking. We don't just address the situation. We look at ways to how we can walk away with being able to, help ourselves and help others with personal accountability and also addressing some solutions. Because depression is a very serious thing, and we are not presuming to think that we know the answer to everything. I mean, I just dealt with a bout of depression about a week ago. About a week ago, man. I was like, it was about 3 days. Usually, if you don't hear from me or if you don't see me, it's either because I'm submerged in work or I'm depressed. And to get to that point of being perceptive enough to know that, because some people wouldn't even know that they're depressed. They wouldn't even know it, which can be damaging to them because they can become very um, uh, dangerous to themselves by not realizing that level of depression. We talked about how the holiday season is the most depressive time for people, and most suicides happen in hotels. And the reason why they had the Bible placed by the Gideons is because when people are alone, that's usually when they commit suicide because of the depression is overwhelming. Um, with the holiday season coming up, how I guess going into the next hour, we're gonna talk about certain things that we know that there's certain things like I know personally that I do in order to help through because I don't really care for the holidays at all.
Sure.
At all. I mean, if anything, I look forward to my mom's cooking. That's about it. And, because I'm not even a big, I got to go spend time with the family type person.
Yeah.
I'm looking. Actually, I think the worst thing for people is to be connected on Instagram or Facebook.
Watching the world while all of this is happening, and maybe it's not going on for them.
Man.
Some people have the ability to peacefully live vicariously, and then there are those people who that does something to them.
How about people who lose family members over the holidays?
Yeah.
That I mean, that's just a way of like
Because
sending
it's
people.
it's programmed into them that these are supposed to be the happiest times of the years.
I'm about to lose you guys on my side. Please reconnect.
And that's perfect because we got about a minute. Nope, I missed it, but we're still gonna do it really quick. If you wanted to contact us outside of the show, we can be found on Instagram at CMCT_show. We can also be found on Facebook at CMCT Show. You can also find us on YouTube live on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern at CMCT_show. We can also be found on Twitter at CMCT_show. If you really wanted to do us a solid and email us some private, personal pictures or show ideas and topics, please email us at cmctshow@gmail.com. We're also on TikTok, which is currently under the weather at CMCT_show. We can also be found on Linktree if you found it on your heart, on your pocketbook, if people still have those. You wanted to donate to us and get some fans and AC and shit going on up in here where it's hot under and behind and in front of these lights. You can do that at linktree.com. In the upper right-hand corner, you will find a search box. And if you type into that search box, CMCT_show, you'll find all of our payment options. Please donate. Lastly, my brother's Instagram is at DARKAN 2000. That is Darkon 2000. He also has a Twitter at Darkon ENT, DARKAN ENT. And lastly, my Instagram at _dosage, DOSAGE. I can also be found on Instagram at _MA. That does it.
That does it. All right. So if you have any questions, if you have any statements, if you want to come in and talk with us tonight, you're definitely welcome to do so. We are open for you guys at this moment. You can share anything that you want to share, but we're going to keep it short from a minute to 2 minutes. Anything more than that, we'd have to cut you off and say goodbye. But as of right now, we're just going to start moving into the different things. We don't want to wait to the last minute to, there may be somebody that's listening that, we can speak on things that you may be able to
It
relate
may
with. In some,
benefit them.
yeah, and it may benefit you in some capacity. So, with that being said, um, how do you deal personally with depression?
Well, I've had a very colorful life, a very colorful, interesting, sometimes painful life,
Mm-hmm.
and I've dealt with a lot of disappointment, and the list is endless. The way that I've always dealt with it is within, because I've always understood introspection. And if you don't know what introspection is, really quick, let's go ahead and pull that up. Introspection, the examination or observation of one's own mental and emotional
Mm,
processes.
good word.
Okay, so self analysis,
Mm-hmm.
right? Some people call it soul searching.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know introversion was a word. I like that.
Mm.
Introversion.
Reminds me too much
But
of introvert.
But one more time, introspection, the examination or observation of one's own mental and emotional processes. I work them out within for the most part, man.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I do have certain people in my life that I'll go to and discuss these things and try to not even get a hold on them, but just get an understanding of them so that
Mm-hmm.
I can better process them, better better work through them.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Do you look at it as a once you have the introspection? Do you look at it as a specific amount of time that you need
I
to
was
get
about to
through
say
it?
I do I tend to give myself a timeline because I know that it's and it might be selfish to myself, but I know that there's so much more for me to do and so much more for me to be focused on.
Okay,
I don't
so
think especially at this point in my life, I don't think that I have the time to remain down and depressed.
yeah, I think that's where people.
Purpose, I guess. I know that I have purpose.
That's it.
That's what it is.
That's it. Listen, the thing that has kept me alive this whole time, not only just my fear of God, that's for me personally,
Okay.
but the fact that I've always known that I had a purpose. A lot of you guys who are out here listening right now, um, find your purpose.
No.
One of the biggest best-selling books of all time is The Purpose-Driven Life.
Hmm.
Um, it was a bestseller because it resonated with people. Within on the other end, you have something like The Secret, and the reason why that resonated with people was because that book was telling everyone you can have what you want. So you have one book that says you have a purpose, and then you have another book that says you can have whatever it is you want if you put your mind to it. Um, you have got to find your purpose. You have got to know that every human being on this planet has a purpose. Even the baby that comes and breathes for 5 minutes and leaves us, there was a purpose behind that. One of my favorite films is The Matrix. I love the second film, Matrix Reloaded, because it was very philosophical. And there's a moment in that movie when Agent Smith is telling Neo it is purpose. He has this long ass monologue about why he came back, and he says I was called. I can't explain it, but it was purpose. And a lot of you listening right now, I know that you feel like you don't have a purpose.
Especially if they're working hard for more than likely for a company that has nothing to do with what your vision of life is, your end goal. It's okay to use that as a stepping stone. And if that is something that you stick with and choose to allow it to be a part of your life, understand that you're allowing it to be a part of your life. It's not your life. Your life is outside of that. And with that other time that you have, you decide what's important to you. What's going to be the reason that you continue. Find some sort of purpose. Purpose does not mean that you change the world. Purpose does not mean that you go and build the tallest skyscraper and start breaking world records and all of those things. It's just this purpose. This is for me.
Piron, she said, I thank God for my emotional intelligence, yet the answers are still coming. I like that. But I definitely do not believe that in medicine. Okay, yeah, I'm the same way. We have someone who wants to come in. Brandon.
Sure.
Brandon, we're bringing you in.
That's
Thanks for
perfect
waiting.
because I got to use the bathroom. I hate to do this,
What is
but
going on with you? It's
look, man,
going
I
through.
get about a gallon to a gallon and a half a day.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I'll be back. The
Hey,
water is
Brandon.
running.
Hey guys,
Brother
how are you
Brandon.
doing?
What's
Well,
going on?
welcome, welcome. How you feeling tonight?
Feeling good, feeling good. I'll have to make it short and sweet. I'm on my way to pick up the fiance, but I wanted to just say that I feel like introspection, that what he was talking about, that kind of nails the nail on the head. A lot of people don't really work on their mind as much as they work on their body, and I found that when I was going through a lot of depression in my 20s and early 30s, I wasn't doing that either. And it wasn't until I went into therapy and started working on myself and started thinking, in terms of how I view myself versus what's actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, that old saying, perception is reality,
Mm-hmm.
that that can really ruin some people,
Mm-hmm.
because they have their own perspective of what life is, and then when it doesn't match up, they don't know how to deal with it because they don't have that emotional muscle
Mm-hmm.
to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
And if if more people focus more on their minds and how to handle difficult situations and kind of put that to the forefront, however they feel like that's a good way to go, I think that would help out a lot of people. But I also feel like it's dangerous, to go straight for medication.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
I have people in my life that are on antipsychotics and whatnot, but I feel like that's more of a last resort rather than a first stop.
Yeah, and that's why we, the responsible thing for us in starting the show is giving a definition. We didn't know it was that many definitions in regards to depression, that they broke it down like that, which to me is troubling because
Yeah.
the thing is most people either don't have listen. I just worked on getting some new health insurance, and they have it now where they give you a certain amount of sessions for free.
Yeah. Yep.
Mental health is a serious thing. Um, you
Well,
know,
that was my point of why science is evolving as we do, because you know uh, I I don't really agree with science always being right, but it's been right more than it's been wrong. And
obviously,
there's
yeah,
been
that's
people
what
who
got us this
that
far.
say
Yeah.
no, this was wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
we've learned from that and we've moved on. But I do find that as we move forward, and like you even said, the definition has changed even this year. I feel like that's because we are continually learning. I don't feel like it's a pharmaceutical ploy to get people to take more pills. I don't feel like that's the driving force for scientists that are actually working
Well,
on what
that
this
that
is and how to combat it.
that's kind of where I'd probably disagree with you because I don't. There's two things I don't trust. I don't trust a lot of that because doctors nowadays are the biggest drug dealers on the planet. They really are.
I'm not
Yeah.
talking about doctors.
Yeah.
I'm talking about scientists. There's a
Right,
distinction
but
there.
but but the scientists are the ones that give the formula of the medicine to the pharmaceuticals. The pharmaceuticals give the, it's just kind of like,
Well, it's how it's. Yes, I understand where you're at. Like,
uh,
yes, pharmaceutical companies are
yeah,
assholes.
yeah,
We've known
yeah,
that for a
yeah,
while.
that,
That's not
yeah,
a
yeah.
surprise. My thinking is, it's kind of the lesson taught's not always the lesson learned, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So the scientists are in a mindset of, this is how we can combat this form of depression,
mm-hmm,
and then the pharmaceutical companies go, let's put this massive price tag on it to
mm-hmm,
fuck everybody over.
mm-hmm.
So I feel like even if the best of intentions are there, it's not always. It doesn't the through line doesn't always come through like that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I gotta let you guys go. I'm sorry
Thank you.
You're all good.
We appreciate you for calling in. All right, brother. Have a good one.
How do I turn this off? There we go. Oh, sorry.
I'll be the same way, dog.
All right.
God damn,
Um,
it's a hassle.
yeah, no, he made a very valid point
What's that?
in regards to the having the
Introspection.
clarity of introspection. Introspection is, but listen, it takes a even appearance. She said, I thank God for my emotional intelligence.
That's what I said earlier. Everyone, it's we're an extreme case, and we're an extreme minority of people who say, "Let me actually sit down and work this out with myself."
Mm-hmm.
That's not normal.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it is normal, but it's not something that everyone is doing or has access to.
It's a possibility if people strive for it. You have to strive for things that will make you want to become the best you. And if listen, this is the thing. We talked about purpose. For me, the when going through my tumultuous time as a teenager, when dealing with a lot of things, and I was going through severe depression, and not to the point of it, excuse me, being clinical, but just I believe with hormonal changes as a teenager and fears you have. I think as teenage life you have everything that could be bad happening.
Because you start receiving more of the real world, and you're given a lot more responsibility. You're approaching independence.
You fear the future.
Those things are very,
Yeah.
very depressing.
The changes that are happening to you physically. The changes,
Especially if you're living in an environment where there aren't many answers for any of those new things that are showing up in your life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of us, especially where I grew up, we're told maybe go to college if you can get there.
If you can get there.
The rest of us, we have no idea what to do, where to go, who to contact, what all of our options are, what it is that we're afforded on this transition into adulthood.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That can be very confusing. That
Mm-hmm.
can be very depressing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's where people that young can start dealing with existential crisis
Mm-hmm.
because they don't know what to do.
Yeah. People tend to want to focus on things outside of themselves rather than themselves. The power lies in you. It is not something outside of you that will. What I've learned is that the way to combat it for me personally is to always remind myself of what needs to be done. I know, okay, this got to be done. So, listen, even in my film ventures, when I'm working on a film, I always tell people, look, something happened to me, y'all pick up the reins, keep going, because that's all that matters at that
That's
point.
all that can be done.
Yeah, that's all that can be done. When I just finished working on a new life, and I was in the hospital. I was very adamant to the co-producers, like, hey,
Don't worry about me.
right, just keep going. But
There's a job that has to be
you
done.
said it takes a certain person to be able to do that,
Yeah.
and I would say that the introspection is important. That we learn to adopt that. Learn to tell yourself, okay, all right, what is
I actually need to take a moment
yeah,
and figure me out, not just what do they call it? I'm doing me. That silly phrase that's come up over the last decade or so.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
What do people mean when they say that?
I'm doing me.
I'm doing me. I'm gonna just sit back. I'm gonna focus on me. What work are you doing?
Mm-hmm,
What part of yourself are you understanding? What part of yourself are you exploring?
mm-hmm,
How much time are you actually taking to learn more about yourself, to heal yourself, to better yourself? Don't just sit back and take that time away and turn it into a drinking party or, a partying life or whatever. If that fulfills you, sure. But you want to take the time to actually do something for yourself.
Yeah, and it is eventually an empty thing because listen, anyone that's ever changed the world because they had an innovative thought process
for everyone else.
For everyone else, right? So people can get mad at somebody because they're a multi-millionaire, but they overlook the fact of what that person had to sacrifice to get to that space.
Mm-hmm.
You see, which
time
is
with self.
Yeah, and you hear that like that's why Instagram as listen. I'm a person, I love social media because I get to stay in touch with people who I care about, honestly, and I get to talk about things that I normally don't talk about in everyday life. and I also get to market things that I want to be able to help my community, black
Right.
community. Because if you don't already know anything that I do in regards to the media, it's to build and to grow the
For
black
us,
community.
by us.
That's it. Period. Period. Um, even this horror film, like if people seeing it, you know, they don't realize that it would change the scope of horror for the black community. You know, but that whole thing of I'm doing me right now. It's like they don't realize that that's where unmet expectation comes from.
Yeah.
It will be an aspect of what will cause you to have that depression.
Because they think that being alone, which is usually what that means, is being alone. They think that just being alone is what it is. It's going to fix everything. I'll be able to figure it all out. But, and I'm not religious, but God helps those who helps themselves,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
The world helps those who help themselves. You have to be able to get up and actually put something behind that statement. Don't just go and hide away and allow nothing to come from it.
Mm-hmm.
Work must be done.
Mm-hmm.
If that means that you go and because we're in the information age, go and get on the internet, study some of these things. All of the information is out there. It's free. Well, 90% of the information is out there and it's free.
Mm-hmm.
Go and figure these things out for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
There are well, I'll have to give the list. I'll get it. I have it written down somewhere, but well, typed up somewhere. But there's a list of YouTube channels where they just teach shit for free.
Mm-hmm.
Interpersonal skills,
Oh, yeah.
social skills, life skills, manual labor, different things for just every day around the house and figuring your life out with work and to help you create balance for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Tons of free resources out there that you are afforded just because you have a phone in your hand. Almost everyone has a phone in their hand. You have access to the internet.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to say that this is what I'm going to go do, put some actual work behind it.
Yeah,
There are
and
resources for
listen,
you.
listen. Even on the book end, I mean, for me that was something that you have to want to reach out for it. In the '80s, we didn't really have internet like how we have it now. I think I was telling you, there used to be a radio show that I listened to faithfully. There were two radio shows on Sunday I listened to faithfully. It was Casey Kasem's Top 40 and Dr. Ruth. I don't know if you guys know who Dr. Ruth is, but she was a Austrian psychological sexual therapist, older lady, and on Sunday she would talk about different things. It wasn't always about sex, but she would talk all the time. And these were the things that I looked to in order to help me with my therapy. But my mom had a vast array of psychological books. And I delved deeply into those. And the books were about alcoholism and sexuality and mental disability and stuff like that. And I mean, some of these books were like 700 pages. Man, I went through those books and I took it upon myself because I didn't like how I felt. So, getting to this aspect, when you don't like how you feel, we have to be able to go and now, Brandon, we can use science because back in school, we were all taught the scientific theory, which is basically there is a mouse, there is a stench in the room. So we have to, the process of elimination. How do we find what it is that's smelling? And, at the end of the process of elimination, you find out that it's a dead mouse, pretty much. So you have to have that introspection. You have to have that self-analysis to say, okay, what is it that, for me, it was a question of, why do I feel this way? That, I was
I believe
like,
that's the first question that we all ask. What's important is what precedes that,
yeah,
right?
the work. The work. Because the thing is that you can ask that, right? For some people, the work is doing therapy, and that's great. That's great. For some people, the work is elimination. So if you're going through depressive stages because you're dealing with people who are the catalyst of that depression, you start to realize, well, I need to remove this out of my life. I need to remove that out of my life. And those are things that you can, that's what I started doing. Like I started saying to myself, okay, I need to be careful of certain things that cause me to feel this way. and that's what we work towards, getting to that space of doing that. Um, Parents said, I'm going through a holiday issue that being a loved one, it's important to live what I speak, laughing out, or, oh, Dr. Ruth, yeah. But anyhow, we have to become self aware. And yeah, it's very much important. Um, there were several people in the Bible um, who, great men who endured depression. King David, he endured depression from despair, loss, and remorse. And if you know anything about that cat, man, a lot of it he caused himself. Elijah the prophet, we talked about that. He had fear and he was weary. He was tired because, we get tired,
Right.
and that fear. Jonah, he was angry due to what had to be done. Can you imagine that?
Hmm.
He the depression that he had was because of what he had to do.
It was a lot.
It was a lot. Job again lost devastation and physical illness. So a lot of us out here, that's the first thing.
That's their reaction to it.
Yeah, the stress, because the doctors are always fearful of you going through depression and the stress. They will ask you, do you feel like hurting yourself? Do you feel like,
Right.
Moses, he grieved over his people. So anytime you're dealing with a family member who you may have lost someone, or they may have lost someone, you have to be mindful that they may be depressed because of that, especially around things that will remind them. My mom still goes through a lot of depression because of my brother. Jeremiah, his was loneliness, defeat, and insecurity. So these are things that, when you see people go through these levels of depression, that you're not alone. We all go through it. All of us go through levels of depression. It is what some people call a season. It's a season of time that you have to go through in order to overcome what you're dealing with. But a lot of it has to be a thing of realizing that the reason why you're going through this depression is there is a cause. It's not just, it just happens where you're depressed.
I agree.
Yeah.
What are we moving into next? I thought people were going to be coming in. Solutions. We haven't really got to solutions yet.
What are they saying over there?
Just saying what's up. That's my boy right there. But no, so solutions.
Yeah. Let's stay on. Yeah.
There are many solutions.
Mm-hmm.
I think that a lot of it starts with health.
Mm-hmm.
It gets into the diet overall,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't just mean the food, but the music that we consume, the media that we consume, how we spend our time. All of those things contribute to our overall emotional health, our overall mental health. What is it that you're receiving on a daily basis?
Mm-hmm.
Are you someone who is addicted to the news? Are you someone who's addicted to social media? What kind of social media are you addicted to?
Mm-hmm.
Are you looking at death every day? Are you looking at chaos every day?
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you're allowing into your life? Those questions are extremely important. And if your answer to those questions are all things that are based in chaos, things that are based in your own unhappiness, it may be time for you to approach that and begin a cleanse of sorts, a fast of sorts. Let me get rid of these things. Even if it's only momentary, be scientific about it. Take your time and see, does it make you feel better not to include those things in your day-to-day? You don't have to go cold turkey and quit, because addictions are addictions in whatever form that they come. But you'll need to take the time to start figuring out, and this is just the part of this is introspection, is what I'm going to keep coming back to, because I think that it greatly helps, and it bypasses the need for medicine, and maybe you don't feel comfortable speaking with others and being vulnerable about who you are and what you are.
Well, and see, that has to change, because listen, what we scientifically know is that speaking about your circumstances makes things somewhat better. It just does.
It's a form of acceptance.
It's a form of acceptance, and it's also a form of allowing yourself to hear out loud what it is that you're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And with that being said, the problem becomes is if you're not adopting other means of being able to release other positive means, or means that are conducive to a betterment of yourself. And so it's important to find the right either forums or therapists or persons that you can speak to and share what your fears are, your other things. Joe Moten said, I think a lot of depression is caused by sheer exhaustion. It may be fatigue, if being alone, unappreciated, unnoticed, financially insecure, etc. When it is all simultaneous, when it hits simultaneous, it's overwhelming. Absolutely. For some of us, one thing sets
It's
us
a
off.
ticking time bomb
Yeah, for some of us,
because it's a buildup.
it's a buildup of many things. The strongest, I've learned that for the strongest, it's multiple things. It's never just one thing. For myself, I realize that like I can, you know, some of
It's
us.
taking a long beating, is what it is.
Yeah,
Man.
man, your endurance,
It's taking a long beating.
Yeah, some of us, it's a couple of things that make us feel a certain way, um, but for some people, one thing can just throw it all off.
It also comes in conversation, and
Mm-hmm.
what I mean by that is the conversation with yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How is it that you speak to yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Are you constantly telling yourself what you can and cannot, what you're trying, what won't and doesn't work for you?
Mm-hmm. That inner voice.
The inner your inner voice is definitely something that dictates how it is that you operate in everyday life. So you want to start spending time changing that conversation. And I say this often, but when you change the conversation, you change the reality.
Yes.
You have to change the conversation. Doesn't mean you got to go pick up a dictionary or a thesaurus, but speak to yourself differently. Be kinder to yourself. One of the things that you told me when we first started training last year was the world is already going to tell you what you're doing wrong first.
Mm-hmm.
Stop telling yourself what you're doing wrong first. Analyze what you did right first and build on that. You can't build on what you did wrong.
Yeah. Let's stay on that for a second, so that way we can give a perspective to the listeners. How does one do that? Because a lot of people are reared and geared up in negativity, right? Depending on where they were raised or where they're from, depending on their family unit. How does one? Because for me, all of those things were a factor,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know. Like I said, I always knew that I was here for something great. I don't know why. I don't know if that was something that was innate. My mom at a later age went to college, got her GED, had 5 young boys, and went to college and turned her life around in that regards. That may have been something, but even before that, I just knew I was here for something great. How does someone incorporate that into who they are, to where they see something better? What do you
Well,
think?
if I could simplify it a bit,
Mm-hmm.
because it doesn't have to be scientific, it doesn't have to be academic at all.
Mm-hmm.
It can be as simple as learning when there's something that you really want. Like I wanted to learn how to cook steaks,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't know that this is what I was thinking of at the time, or even that it was an operation of mine. But my first steak, I cooked the hell out of it. You know what I'm saying? I cooked the shit out of that steak, and I could barely cut it. However, it tasted good, so I said, "All right, well, it tasted good. It's just not quite the way that I want it. So I don't need to change any of the seasonings for now. Let me see how I can make this a little more soft,
Tender,
right?
yeah.
I'm going through trials, but I'm picking the things that I'm doing right and keeping those. I congratulate those, right? The moment, if I remember at some point I had changed the way that I was seasoning it. I was putting too much seasoning, so the seasoning was burning in the grease while I was trying to sear it, rather than it just searing and then I can move on to the next part. But I'm going through trials of and focusing on what it is that's working. That's what I focused on. And now I make a hell of a steak. Just so y'all know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I killed that shit. I just had 2 really good steaks a couple days ago. But and I made them. Let's be clear about that.
Right.
But look at it as a trial.
Mm-hmm.
this is the time for examination.
Mm-hmm.
You got to understand that there is no perfection. Perfection is relative.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking to be perfect in anything or at anything, this is where we get back into the work. The work can be in trials.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be I got it right this time. That's all.
Right,
There is
right.
no right. There's
Right.
just good enough for you.
Right.
What's good enough for you in that moment? You got to take the time to figure those things out.
Mm-hmm.
So add trial periods to anything it is that you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Give yourself the chance to be right about something.
Mm-hmm.
Stop
Yeah.
telling yourself what you're doing wrong first, because everybody's already gonna tell you that.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're geared and trained to go there first.
Yeah,
That's
because it's discouraging.
yeah. We activate in a level of discouragement. You know, it's horrible to see someone not take note of what they're doing great. You know, and it's like some of us. I think it goes back to being a child where we're in this mass group of people who 20, 30 kids that go into this classroom and you're taught, okay, be like Tasha or be like Johnny.
Yeah,
And it's like you can never be like
because they're getting everything right.
Yeah,
You need to
and-
be like them.
man, you can't, especially if even if you grew up in a family of other siblings, you know, parents have that issue of slipping out and saying,
How come you can't be like
mm-hmm.
more like your brother?
Yeah,
more
they
like
didn't
your
give
sister?
me that problem, you know. And they're all guilty of
Rather
it
than dealing with it on a case by case basis.
because we're all different. And so you have to all look at it the same way in regards to your level of depression. You know, some people, for me, it's usually, listen, I always say whenever I'm upset, because it's a difference in being upset and being depressed. Two differences.
Right.
Stuff that make me upset, I can have a bad day. I go to sleep 20 minutes. I wake up, I got a different perspective. Depression, it's like, oh, okay, I feel what's going on, because you know that introspect, that introspection. I'm like, okay,
It might take more than an ice cream to fix it. Right?
yeah, you know what I mean. Like I'm like, all right, so that's what this is. So I'm very cognizant as well. I think a lot of us are not cognizant of it, and we embark on feeling bad, and then we're, you know, the world is telling you you shouldn't feel bad, you shouldn't be depressed, and it's like, but everybody on Instagram's got it great, man. Everybody got money.
When that's what you're looking at, yeah, sure.
They all going in vacationing. You
Multiple
know,
times a month.
they're in the
It
gym.
seems like.
They're in, man, my timeline is, you know, I got to stop following cats that inspire me because I'm just like.
You going to be an astronaut, a president,
That's
a
not what I
world class
signed up
chef.
for. Yeah, you know, I mean, everybody look good.
Yeah.
You know, even at 60, cats and chicks looking good now. You know, everybody got it all together, and it's a false reality. It's the matrix.
Of course.
And we have to get strong in ourselves to, like I said, find your purpose.
Unplug
man.
for a bit.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Like
Unplug,
yeah.
you know, take that fast and get away from what seems like normal reality and go and find what it is that you want your reality to actually be like, what actually makes you happy.
Yeah, sure.
Not what the world is telling you will make you happy.
Sure. And that's listen, happiness is fleeting. That's
Yeah.
it's an old phrase. Happiness is fleeting. You can't be happy 24 hours, 7 days a week. You know, I used to know back when I was a trainer. I'll never forget this chick, man. There's a thing that I probably hate more than hypocrisy, which is false Christians. I hate I hate false Christians. I hate people who make themselves feel like they are more in line with God than you. Because that person makes you feel like you're inept. And there was this chick, I never forget it. She used to have a hat. She used to come, she was a trainer, very beautiful white chick. She used to have a hat early in the morning. And she was one of those people that had the white teeth, and the teeth were perfect. And it'd be 7 in the morning, and hi, Jesus loved you. Jesus loves you. And every morning it was like, for a year, I looked at her and I said, "There's no way. There's no way. There's no way you are this, because it's not real. And it's not a thing of me wishing bad on someone. Life in itself, we live in a fallen world. Life in itself is going to throw you a curveball. It just does.
Yeah, no one's life is perfect.
No one's life is perfect. No one's life is perfect, and when you see that, that's something that would cause depression for someone because they'd be like, especially in the church, it was like, well, why am I not like
How is it
her?
that you earn
Man, that
perfect
grace,
life?
yeah, that grace over me.
Perfect life right now, every single day,
There's just
and
things.
nothing happens to you,
There's things that people just don't know. So,
and that's okay too.
guys, the way to combat this shit, in my opinion, how I deal with it, um, is I recognize it, and
Yeah.
I know that it's luring, it's lurking. There's an old scripture. The devil's like a roaring lion, waiting to see who he can devour. It's a matter of time. So you relish in the great times, man. When you have those times where you can eat, those times where you can go out and pay for a meal for someone because that moment's going to come, and how you deal with it makes the difference. Every king or queen that had a kingdom knew that there was a time they were going to be attacked. There was a point of peace, and then they knew there was a point we're going to have to go to war. That's why they had military.
Yeah.
Oh no, everything's going to be good.
It's the type of balance.
It is, man. And what you're saying is so right. And I think it goes back to introspection. It goes back to knowing um, who you are and how you're going to deal with it. Because when it comes on, I feel like, oh, okay.
Because life will be up and down.
Yeah.
Plain and
Yeah.
simple.
There's nothing wrong with you if you have bad days, if you're going through a spell of depression. Now, if you feel like it's lasting longer than it should, seek professional help.
Yeah.
Seek professional help. Me, I was fortunate, man. I don't know how I did it, but I did a lot of self therapy. And if you're out there and you're capable of doing that, that's great. But you have to be cognizant of the fact that you know what,
Everyone does not operate the same way.
and don't fool yourself. Like I based a lot of my help of my own personal growth on wanting to be fair and integral. I figured if I can do that, integrity, if I can learn to be consistent in my integrity, if I can learn to be consistent in being fair, then I can deal with people on the face value.
Yeah.
You know, because that's all you really have.
Well, we get to the point of, you don't know exactly what anyone is going to do, but you expect them to do exactly what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you're psychic.
No.
It just means you accept that people will do whatever it is that they do.
Yeah. And it's not a judgment thing. A lot of people look at it. Oh, that's just judging the world. That's just no.
Well, it's normal to judge.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that'll be an episode. We
Yeah,
can talk about judgment.
yeah. But Piran mentioned. I wanted to go over that. She said this is much needed, especially during the holidays. I'm going to send you guys an energy treatment I'm doing this Friday.
Sure.
I believe God has sent the solution. All right. Well, listen. When people, what about when people are telling people you're depressed, you're depressed, you're depressed, you're depressed, and you're like, I'm fine. Have you ever experienced that? Because I've experienced
Recently.
that before.
Oh, y'all been telling me, are you okay?
But no, but that's different than no, you're depressed.
Well, but I think that's what you guys feel. I don't know why you guys feel that way.
Not me. Not me.
I've been getting that often recently. I have no idea why.
Mm-mm.
I like to think that I'm okay, but
Yeah. I mean, we're all functioning.
yeah.
I don't think you're depressed. I think you know what you need to do, and it's just a period. It's a season.
Yeah, I'm dealing with some stupid shit.
Yeah.
When am I not?
Right. But listen, that's what I mean by a person that has their purpose. You can't be thrown. You used to say you're square. You can't be.
I'll never be knocked off my square.
But
I've lived a life that most people never will.
Right. The battles that you incurred is what
Yeah.
prepared you for what's going on now. And that's kind of what I was saying about Elijah. When you go through these things, you lick your wounds and you come back stronger, hopefully, because you don't know what that next battle is going to be. And we all learn that's the whole value of getting older, because with age does come to wisdom.
Yeah.
Understanding is something that you have to pursue. You have to pursue understanding.
Make sure relativity is a part of that.
Yeah. What's going on, Sharif? Yes. Hey, Ashley. The whole thing of figuring out what steps to take. First is recognition, recognizing that there is an issue,
Yeah.
recognizing that you are depressed. And that's different for each individual, that's different for each person.
Are you not feeling like yourself at the very least is a question that you should definitely periodically ask yourself. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we can say what people have to be and what they have to do, but again, these are just they're not even suggestions. It's just more perspective for you.
Perspective, yes.
You know, make sure that you're checking on yourself because the world is not always going to check on you.
No. And in my opinion, you're on your own. It's just that every now and then God sends you, you
Some good
know,
people.
yeah, you're blessed, man, to have people who come in and check on you. And that's why you can never take that for granted. You can never ever take that for granted. You have to get into a habit of thanking people for being there in your life, especially friends, because family is through adversity, but friends, they choose. They
Yeah.
choose to care. They choose to be there. And we're not talking about people who call you and the next thing you know they're talking about themselves for the next 40 minutes. No, they're genuine. They're like, hey,
Somebody
I'm
who's
just,
actually checking on you.
yeah, man, yeah. And you want to create that. If you are able to, you have to change your thought process on the people you have in your life. You have to create to me, I call it reciprocation. It's like, all right, um, and then be aware and astute of knowing, okay, well, I can't really call this person in regards to this. This is somebody, like, I've always learned that I'm very specific of who I deal with certain things. I get people all the time saying, you can talk to me, Choice, you can talk to me. And it's like, no, I can't, because it's easier to speak to someone who can relate, and usually what would, for me, if I believe in the unmet expectation breeds depression, it's usually stuff pertaining to my work. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, if it's something with the complex, or if it's something with my film career or something like that, I want to speak to people who've been in that boat, that understand that. I don't want to talk to somebody and be like, you know what, you should call Tyler Perry.
Well, you got you know, to be fair, there's an inverse of that too, man, and that's that some people just need the opportunity to speak about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if you have someone who's just willing to listen and ask questions for understanding, for some people that is therapy.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
To have the opportunity to say, this is what's going on, and I don't know how to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
For some people, that is fuel to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so don't be discouraged from talking to someone who doesn't understand,
Mm-hmm.
because that might be an opportunity as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
give yourself grace, give others grace. You know, anyone willing to invest time into you and give you an ear or a shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
You know, don't shoo it away just because they don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when I'm let me be very clear about it. From what I'm saying, it's basically on a level of people in that arena that I'm in,
Yeah.
because um, you know, the old
You also know what works for you at this point.
yeah, I mean, there's an old biblical phrase that says, "Don't discount the counsel of you know, of a person that's on the street, because they could be an angel." You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And so I totally get that. Um, Once you get to a place in life where you have an understanding, you definitely recognize that, because you want to be careful not to get bad counsel either.
Yeah, no, of course.
So it's one of those things where it's just like, step one, know your purpose. Step two, speak to someone. Step three, you know, how long are you going to go through it? And it's not a thing of snap out of it. Don't ever let anybody tell you that.
But step to it, address it,
I like
acknowledge
that.
it,
There you go.
accept it.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, absolutely. Because you have to be strong in the face of depression. That I do know for a fact. You have to have strength in regards to how you're going to deal with it. Whether, even if you're a person that's ignoring it, you still have to have a level of strength to get up every day.
Because it's still having an effect,
It's having a huge effect.
even if it's just constantly tapping you on the shoulder. That means at some point, because it's not just gonna disappear, not like that.
No, no. On the outside of it,
Yeah.
how does a person, in your opinion, know that they're out of the depression or they're through it?
Saying if someone's going through it.
Yeah, say for instance, like for me, How I know, and I'll tell you, this is a very funny thing for me. Whenever I'm depressed, I don't sing, I don't laugh. That's something that I've learned. Even if people are making me laugh, the laugh or um, singing, I definitely don't because I love to sing. Singing, I definitely won't when I'm depressed. But yeah, I've had people. I've been depressed around you guys, and you made me laugh. It's like okay, but then I'm back in that space. How you know you're depressed sometimes is when you're counter to your natural personality. That's what I've learned for me. And so when I'm in that phase of being depressed, I'm counter to who I am. I don't want to talk to nobody. I don't want to see nobody. I don't want to sing. I don't want to, I'll even listen to music and just like, how I know I'm out of it is I'm singing, I'm laughing. I find the energy. And mind you, I can still be productive
Yeah.
through my depression. I can have 3 days of depression, sit at my computer and get 90% of my work done. Almost like the functional alcoholic who's drinking all day but still getting the work done. Um, but when I'm out of it, I know I'm out of it because I'm silly again. And so these are things that I've learned about myself, that introspection,
Yeah.
to where it prepares me to gird up my loins and to be ready to fight when it happens. Because a lot of times people are denying the fact that they're depressed. I'm not depressed. I'm not depressed. I'm not depressed. And it's like the reason why they're denying it is because they believe that depression is not right. So the world tells you you're not supposed to be depressed, and you become depressed. That's counterintuitive to how the natural order of things are.
Yeah.
So that's going back to the beginning of the show. That's why all of those different definitions were scary to me. Because how do you know what demon to slay if you don't know what weapons to use? You see?
Introspection, right? Dealing with self, um, which is a tall task in itself. It's a tall demand, tall order. It is beneficial to learn to sit with yourself and work with yourself, figure these different things out about yourself, because the world should not be able to tell you who you are and what you are. That's not something that you should just accept because you've seen it on television or you heard it on a talk show or read it in some article, any of those things. Sit down and ask yourself those questions. Work with yourself. Take your time. Um, there is no definitive answer. There is no catch-all. We can't sit here and list out every single variable, but I can tell you that it's worth it to really take the time with yourself. Don't just tell yourself that you're doing you or you're on your own. You're gonna be good by yourself. What is it? I can do bad all by myself and all of that craziness. Sit down and take the time to really figure you out.
Mm.
You have to feed you. You have to nourish you. Because the big thing about that is if you're someone who's looking for purpose and you want to be able to give to those that you love, you cannot help anyone until you help yourself. You gotta feed yourself positivity, feed yourself healing, um, feed yourself balance. Find those things for you so that you can afford those around you the same. Elsewise, you deplete all your own resources.
I want to fit this in real quick.
Yes, sir.
Joe Moten said, I also think a lot of people confuse depression with weakness, and therefore they don't address the issues. Allow yourself to go through the neighborhood of depression occasionally, just don't reside there. God damn, that was a good one. That's why I love you, Joe.
I knew I liked her when I met her, man.
That's
strong woman.
Yeah, yeah, and
powerful woman, rather, not strong. She's powerful.
Yeah, and yeah,
spiritually and emotionally.
Absolutely, yeah. I want to get away from that strong. She's a strong woman.
I don't believe that silly shit.
Yeah,
but
so you're powerful, Joan, and I
powerful.
love you tremendously, and your wisdom is definitely received. Thank you, Bodies for Christ. Yeah, bars, no doubt. So listen, I'm hoping, and we'll definitely have to come up and address it again, another show. Um, it's just 2 hours, you know.
Not quite enough, but I believe again offering a space where the conversation can be had. You know, I don't believe in much hope, but hopefully listeners and viewers today at least heard something that could alter the perception or alter the perspective for them a bit or enhance the perspective for them a bit and alter the perception of all of these different things. That's what I would hope.
That that sums it up.
Because at the very least, if we spark one mind, we've done more work than most.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's no one answer for people.
Nope.
And you just we're all different, but you have to recognize who you are. And I believe personally that if you push forward to have objectives in your life, to where you have a purpose, things will make a difference. I mean, that's what got me through. I fought for my purpose.
Yeah.
I fought for who I was and what I wanted to accomplish. I've always done that, and that's probably why um, people like Bruce Lee and Prince, different people inspired me. Because I was just like, man, I want to be like them. I want to be able to know that I can be that creative.
Something to strive for.
Yeah,
You got
man.
a target.
Yeah. Pick up the phone, call somebody that you love, tell them thank you for inspiring you, and or make sure you're checking in on your family members.
God damn it, Eric. Nah, there's just really, really quick, and you can go online and look at this, but there's a crisis hotline. You can text them. There's also a number. I didn't pull up the actual website, but the text. So you can start there because I know that from but interacting with people over the years, man, some people don't want to hear it out loud yet. They don't want to hear themselves speak about it. They don't want to hear others speak about it. But just the ability to be able to go somewhere and let it out. Crisistextline.org. Go to that website. If you look on there, you can text HOME, HOME, to 741-741.
Again, that's home 741-741.
And it's 24/7 crisis counseling, which means you can call them and talk to them about whatever it is that you need to talk to them about.
All right, guys, we will be back on Thursday night here with you, our friends. We'll be talking about pop culture, so we'll see what madness happens.
Some good old-fashioned pop culture. My favorite subject.
What madness happens, and mind you, we throw ourselves on the stake because our show from last Thursday.
Yeah, man, we got hit talking about the GEWSs. You know what I'm saying? So whatever.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah. But I just uploaded it again, so hopefully it stays. Hopefully YouTube ain't that nosy. Changed a couple of the tags.
It's definitely a lot of that has progressed since last Thursday. So we'll definitely talk about it. Again, talk to someone. If you have not figured out how to talk to yourself yet, look for a sounding board.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody have a good night.
You're loved, and you're needed, and you're wanted. Just know that, guys. All right.
Always remember, somebody out there that loves your ass. Just go find them. All right. Everybody have a good night. Thank you guys for tuning in. Nope, you know what? The speaker is down. Let me turn it up. You almost got me this time. God damn it, still didn't. Well, one of these days I'm gonna get this right. Muscles on this lonely back. Fact, I've been on the grind so long, hoes could never call me that. Please keep it short. I don't speak for all the rap. I'm your mechanic. I don't every
want
time,
the parts
man.
of whack. Keep
It'll be a
darts
gag
of
at some
wax.
point.
I'm
It already is them, man.
Got a birthday. I just make it special. If you came to wrestle, well, maybe we can do that. Chapman bring the dosage and show you where your shoes at. Exactly where the proof at. I ain't gotta prove stats. I don't need the hookup. I've been staying blue-black, straight from where the news at. Life-size showdown, story I survived. Made them live remotes down, painting what I wrote now. I imagine it, I'ma grope the canvas. Every stroke is passionate.